Welcome back to Cracking the Shell on Psychological Science, and I'm here again with Dr. Jude Cassidy, a developmental psychologist here at the University of Maryland. Welcome back, Jude.
Thanks, Mike. I'm glad to be here.
Today, I think maybe what I want to do is talk about your research, and in particular, some of the work you've been doing in your lab over the last 10, 15 years, but then also some of the more recent work you've been doing in the school systems here local to the DC and Baltimore communities.
That sounds good.
So I guess my first question is just, can you give me an idea of what type of work you do in your lab?
I study close relationships. They're really important to me from the beginning. That's where I got started. I started with mothers and babies in graduate school, and then the sample I was working with grew up, and they became 6-year-olds. So suddenly I was interested in 6-year-olds, even though I didn't think I ever would be interested in children that old. And then they kept growing, and I got interested in adolescents, and then young couples and romantic relationships, and then they became parents, so then parenting. But in all of that, it's sort of close relationships within the family.
What is it that's important about the developing mind and the relationship that one has with their close family members or parents?
Well, I just expand that for the developing mind, heart, spirit, behaviors, relationships, health, physical health and mental health. Those relationships are really core. I remember in graduate school, Mary Ainsworth was my advisor. She was like the pioneering, groundbreaking person in studying parent-child relationships, mother-baby relationships. And I remember her telling me that when she was first starting, her colleagues, her male colleagues at Hopkins would actually said to her, well, why would, and she did home observations in the field, and she said they would say, like, why would a scientist care about what mothers and babies did in the kitchen? And now that's a ludicrous idea and foundation of much developmental science.
So is there science that shows that this certain types of relationships can be beneficial for, or maybe risk factors for, heart disease or later life pathologies or whatever?
Yeah, we don't have a single prospective longitudinal study that goes all the way there yet, but we certainly have an awful lot of pieces connecting lots of the dots on the way. Okay,
so give me an example, if you can, of some biological outcomes, like sort of health outcomes, not mental health, but physical health outcomes that might be hypothesized where there's evidence to be related to a parent-child relationships.
We talk about having a secure base, and so when children, feel like they have a secure base across everybody, we all do better, and we have our stress reactivity goes down, and the way cortisol is processed in our bodies, and all sorts of stress hormones, and the brain and responses to threat. So when we feel like there's threat and we have somebody who has our back, that we know there's lots of data that in very young children that we can see it. We measure cortisol a lot, and that's common, or we can see it in their brains. EEG responses to threat in the presence of a supportive, secure base, somebody that they count on. And then there are all the cascading links from stress reactivity to longer-term health outcomes and heart disease, and the capacity to build successful relationships linked to loneliness. Loneliness is more risky than smoking 2 packs of cigarettes a day. So,
well, this is actually, I think, a good transition into some of the more recent work you've been doing that I believe is funded by the Maryland Community Health Resources Commission in partnership with the Laurie Foundation.
That's right.
Can you tell me about what you're doing with this group and this concept of circles of security?
Yes, I'm very excited to talk about it. We just got 3 grants about 6 weeks ago. The main goal of this consortium that funded us is to go within public schools in Maryland, and we're going into PG County, Montgomery County, and Frederick County. And the goals of the consortium and of us, there are 2 goals: to improve student well-being in the classroom and of their readiness to learn, and then also to foster positive classroom environments.
Okay, what age kids are you working with? Preschool, okay. So this is like...
really little, 4-year-olds mostly.
That's really cool.
An awful lot of early interventions are designed to help teachers learn to manage children's problem behaviors. And we don't do that. We really teach, and they're good programs and they can be successful and they're great. It's just a different approach. Our approach is to help teachers learn to be in a relationship with the child and to be actually a secure base in the child. So the title of the program that we do is the Circle of Security in the Classroom. So we just help teachers. We don't give lectures. We help teachers understand what it is that children need. For little 4-year-olds, what they need as exploring, how to recognize these needs when they see them, and how to respond in the best supportive ways to help these kids.
Can you give me some concrete examples of maybe what would be some of the things that I would learn as a participant in this program? By the way, it's interesting that it's an intervention for kids. It's work that you're doing with the teachers.
This big consortium that was funded $96 million from the State Assembly, there are programs that work directly with kids.
Yeah.
And ones that work with teachers to manage behavior. Ours is just different. There are lots of different approaches to see what works for whom and how. And ours is to work with teachers to help them learn to be a secure base for these little kids.
Yeah.
So we start with a graphic that's like a circle. And teachers are meant to be the hands, which is the secure base. And we teach them, the top half of the circle is about kids going out and exploring the world and learning their numbers and their letters and just learning how to play with the other kids and need moments that those kids might have out there, like for some help or to enjoy with me. And then when the kids get upset, which they will, or they fall, or a kid grabs their toy, they're going to need, we talk about the bottom half, where they need connection. And sometimes they'll come in and they need help, protection. Sometimes they need help organizing their feelings. Mm-hmm. And when they come in and they get help with what they need, they're going to go back out and explore. And so it's a framing of, when one kid behaves badly, it's not that he's a bad kid, it's that he's having trouble organizing his feelings because he's 4 years old. And so one of our outcome measures is empathy, to help teachers make a shift. We call it the empathic shift. That's our change mechanism, from he's a bad, rotten kid to he doesn't know what to do when he's frustrated, and I'm going to help him learn.
So is part of this then equipping teachers with tools for recognizing certain types of behaviors as instances of certain types of emotions?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And then the other part, of course, is giving them the skills to properly sort of, work with the students too.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Can you give me an example of some impact that your work has had for the teachers or the students?
So in the focus group after the intervention at the end of the school year, we asked teachers what it was like for them. And here's what one teacher said. She said, children, they come in, they might be whiny, they come in, they need water, they need a hug, they need this, and it's ongoing. You can't even get your lesson started because everybody needs something. And I think, what do they need? Now I focus a little bit more on what is it they're really needing. A lot of times, if I'm honest, I just think they're just being a brat right now. But I think that with Circle of Security, it makes you look at what are they really asking me for, and what are they really expressing by doing what they're doing. And so I think I'm more cognizant of that, and I'm able to focus on saying, okay, you need a hug, you need a little attention right now. And so I think that now I'm more cognizant of wondering, okay, maybe they just need something. And if you can just take that 1 second to figure out what they need and then meet that need, then everything else is going to flow differently.
It sounds like what you're doing is trying to move people away from the classroom management approach.
Well, classroom management is a very big part of early childhood education, and that I think that's what a lot of teachers can feel like, is we're managers.
Yeah.
We've just, as she said, I've got to get on with the day. There's so much to do. I've got to get on with the lesson, and how to manage those really few kids, their real problems, and as opposed to, those are real problems, and managing a classroom is a real skill, and it's important. There can't be chaos. But our focus is on relationships and letting kids know, feeling secure when they have a meltdown, when they need something, that somebody cares about them, that somebody has their back, that they can go to them and say, I'm upset about this, and it's like, okay, tell me about it, or I'll make sure that you get your chance with the truck, and just a pat, or just some way of conveying. When you've got 25 kids in the same classroom at the same time, it's hard and a lot to manage, but through a stance, an emotional stance that says, I care about you, I recognize you, I'm not here just to manage and make sure the trains run on time. I care about you. I want to know, I'm delighting in you when you're learning stuff. I certainly set limits. I take charge when kids, 4-year-olds are 4, and I'm the adult in the room, and I'm going to take charge. But when I can, I follow your lead. I delight in you. I'm glad to see you every day. I'll be here tomorrow. And just a sense of, the best teachers that we had. What we all want in all organizations and groups of people is to be welcomed, appreciated, and that happens at such a nonverbal level.
You had mentioned this example of a principal walking by one of your classrooms, and which I found so cool. Do you mind sharing that?
It wasn't a big story. I mean, it was just that when we were meeting with the groups of administrators afterwards, and somebody reported that one principal said that when he walked down the hallways in the preschool wing now, it just sounded a lot different to him. He could just tell by the sound in the hallways of kids not being completely dysregulated that whatever was going on, it was good.
And he didn't know at the time that was one of your classrooms.
That's right.
And it was.
Yes. Very nice, very satisfying. The teachers really report. I mean, our design is just a pre-post study because that's what we are charged to do. I'd love to have a randomized trial sometime. But our pre-post measures, we're using gold standard questionnaires for teacher self-reports, and they're reporting both about themselves, that they are their empathy towards these kids, and they also report their own behavior towards their kids in certain hypothetical situations using really gold standard measures on this. And they all talk about behaving much less hostilely, more acceptance. And then in the focus group, they would talk about the children being much less dysregulated and fewer behavior problems. So, I mean, there are problems with just pre-post designs, but in that context, we're getting it. And I see the words in their focus groups, and I look at them and talk to them, and they're happy.
So if there's one thing that you would like to see come of this work, I mean, what would be sort of the idealized eventual outcome, whether it's 3, 5, 10, 15 years down the road?
Well, to start with, of course, I'd like the data to show that it's really an effective program and working well. And therefore, other schools, we're now in 3 counties. Last year we were in 1 county, PG County, and now we're in 3. I'd love it if the data are strong enough and interest is strong enough and funds are available to, have it in more places. And
what if it became part of the standard training curriculum for universities? That would be cool, wouldn't it?
It would be very cool. I've thought about doing that, actually. In my spare time, I've had fantasies of going to the School of Education here.
Well, very cool. This sounds like a very interesting and promising line of research.
Thanks.
And one that could have an enormous impact on tons and tons of kids.
Thank you.
I'm looking forward to seeing some of the future reports on this.
All righty. Thanks a lot, Mike.
Thank you.
Enjoyed it.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Hey folks, this is Mike with Crack in the Shell on Psychological Science, my podcast that I do with my wonderful colleagues Abby, Ben, and Joey here at the University of Maryland. If you'd like to reach out to us and share your thoughts or just say hello, you can email us at crackintheshellonpsychology@gmail.com. That's crackintheshellonpsychology, one big long word, @gmail.com. And while I have you, I want to give a big shout out to Joey Barnett and Jeremy Gordon for producing the music. Thanks, guys. Do you have any sort of training procedures or training things you can give to department chairs? You had mentioned...
It's the same principles, the same ideas.
I know.
It's the same.
Different people, same principles.
Different age. Same thing.
Yeah, older infants.
You may want to edit that out of this interview.